All right, welcome back, guys. We are finishing up the muscular system content. Not that much left, right? See if I can find this pen tool. It's apparently there. It is. It's taking a sweet time. May have opened too many of them on accident. Either way. Oh, yeesh. Okay, definitely opened too many of these. May have to just reload everything. Let's see if that helps. Okay. That's better. All right. So let's go ahead and conclude the unit. Not much left. Really, what's left over is just talking about like naming muscles that we need to identify for this chapter. Okay. Speaking of naming, there are different rules for naming. Honestly, in regards to the rules of naming muscles, we don't need to worry too much about that because there's a lot of different ways to name a muscle, but I just kind of wanted to discuss it verbally. So sometimes you name a muscle based off the direction of the fibers. So for instance, rectus means straight. There's a muscle called the rectus abdominis that has a bunch of straight fibers. Sometimes you name the muscle based off the size. So like maximus is indicating it's large. Sometimes you name it based off location, which would instance like these are the easiest muscles in my opinion to remember. Like temporalis is found on your temporal bone. Sometimes you name it based off the number of origins that it has. So like tricep is going to have 3 origin sites. Bicep would have 2. Sometimes you name it based off of where it's heading and the insertion. So sternocleidomastoid is a rather long, complex sounding muscle, but that's one of those that fits into that category. Shape of the muscle are pretty easy too because it's typically just going to be the structure, like what does it look like? So deltoid is a triangular muscle, a delta is a triangle on your shoulders. Action of the muscle, sometimes you'll see like what looks like an adjective before the word, flexor and extensor, indicating what it does. Okay, so let's actually go through the muscles that we need to identify. Not all these muscles we need to learn, but there are some here that we do need to pay attention to. So frontalis is one, that's your forehead muscle, very easy to feel. Orbicularis oculi, that's another, it's the orb-shaped muscle around your eye. Oculi means in Latin eyes, so think of like the Oculus Rift, that VR headset. Zygomaticus, this is a muscle that comes from your cheek all the way to your lips. It's helpful for facial expression, like smiling and frowning. Orbicularis oris, this is very similar to Orbicularis oculi. Just pay attention to the second word. Oris means oral, which is mouth. Moving on to the backside and technically the side of the head. Temporalis. Temporalis, like I said earlier, is your temples. People who can wiggle their ears can activate their temporalis. Occipitalis. Very easy to feel that muscle. Just look straight up. When you look straight up, you'll feel that muscle activate in the back of your head. Masseter. Pound for pound, the masseter is the strongest muscle of the human body. It goes from the cheek to your jaw, and it's necessary for chewing. It's one of the major chewing muscles. Sternocleidomastoid. This is the really complex sounding one. The sternocleidomastoid goes from the jaw area all the way to your neck and into the sternum. You can feel that muscle easiest when you turn your head left and right. Trapezius, your traps. In regards to this, these are your shoulder muscles. You can feel them when you shrug. You find the trapezius in the shoulder, in the neck, and all the way into the back as well. Next, your trunk muscles. In regards to your trunk muscles, we have some muscles of the arms that we need to identify. Deltoid is a triangular shaped muscle that you see here. Pectoralis major is your primary pec muscle, your primary chest muscle. That's the one we're going to be focusing with. And then finally, biceps brachii, aka just your biceps, right? Moving into the core and the abdominal region, we have the rectus abdominis. Rectus abdominis is going to be your major abdominal muscles that make up the six pack that we are familiar with, right? So these are your major abdominal muscles. They're found under some layer of other tissue. And the other one that we're going to pay attention to here is referred to as the external oblique. Those are found on your sides. People that work out their external oblique often can form like a V cut, which looks like it's like pointing towards your pelvic region. Moving on down, technically we're in the backside. Once again, you can see the trapezius, rather large muscle, right? But we also see the latissimus dorsi. That's the one we need to pay attention to, the lats. This is a massive back muscle that starts from the spine and wraps around your body. Next, moving on down, we have the thigh. In the thigh, we have two muscles that we need to pay attention to. The sartorius, which is a ribbon-shaped muscle. It's very thin. It's right here. What I'm trying to highlight a little bit, but it's this very thin muscle that comes from the pelvic region or the pelvis all the way to your knee. So it helps for stability purposes. And lastly, there's a group of muscles. There's a ton of muscles in your thigh, but there's a group of muscles. I'll come to you when I'm done. No worries. You're good. Sorry about that. There's a group of muscles found in the front of the thigh called the quadriceps. The quadriceps, we don't need to know them individually, but those are the muscles found in the front of the thigh that are very, very powerful. Moving on down, muscles of the lower leg. As far as the lower leg is concerned, there's one in particular that we need to pay attention to. It is tibialis anterior. As the name implies, tibialis means it's connected to your tibia. Anterior just means it's on the front side, right? Gastrocnemius, massive muscle, your calf. And finally, this is not a muscle, but we do need to know this for testing purposes. Your calcaneal tendon. Calcaneal is referencing to the calcaneal bone, which is your heel. But Achilles tendon is another name for this. It's the largest tendon of the human body. Here we can see everything from an anterior view, so from the front. I would familiarize yourself with this. Not everything here you need to know, of course, but a decent amount. Here we see the backside. There are some muscles here we need to learn as well. Triceps brachii, which are your triceps, just found on the backside where your biceps would be. Your glutes, both of them, gluteus medius, gluteus maximus. So medius is just the small little layer of tissue found right below the spine or below the pelvis. Maximus, of course, is the butt, much larger. And then finally, remember how we have quadriceps on the front side, as far as on the thigh. On the back side, you have another group of muscles that make up the hamstrings. So I would make sure we know that as well. Finally, to conclude, we have some disorders that can affect the muscular system. I actually should fix this while we're here, so go ahead and do that. Muscular dystrophy, Duchenne muscular dystrophy, and myasthenia gravis. Muscular dystrophy is an inherited condition. If I'm not mistaken, it's a sex-linked condition. Muscles enlarge due to increased fat and connective tissue, but the fibers degenerate and atrophy. So the muscles get larger, but unlike normal muscles, when they get larger, they get stronger. This is the opposite. They're getting larger and they're becoming weaker. Duchenne's muscular dystrophy is similar. The distinction for that is that the sarcolemma, which is the plasma membrane of a muscle cell, is lacking a particular protein, so it makes the membrane more vulnerable. Finally, myasthenia gravis is a situation where you have progressive weakness due to shortage of acetylcholine receptors. Acetylcholine is a neurotransmitter that we talked about in this unit and we'll learn more about in the nervous system. But without acetylcholine, the muscles are not able to contract. So if you lack the receptors for acetylcholine, obviously the muscles are going to be weakened and can lead to more serious problems. Okay? And that's it. That's where we're going to conclude. I think these crash course videos are always very helpful. You can find them on YouTube as well. But I think that's a great place for us to conclude the unit as far as muscular system. I really appreciate you guys checking in, even though this one was a little bit more disruptive. But yeah, that's about it. I'll see you guys in the next unit. Have a great one.